Which is the best leader in Immortality? Well, stay tuned to find out. So hi everyone, my name is Cheesable and today we'll be covering some statistics from about 150 games submitted by the TTS community. So jump straight into win rate. How you look at this chart, right, is that any of the dark purple ones, right, the dark purple ones are for leaders who do not have a large enough sample size. So when you have a less than 30 sample size, right, your confidence level is pretty low. But once your sample size becomes larger, you know, your data becomes more accurate. So first thing first, Paul has the most insane win rate so far. He has slightly over 30 games. So I think if we could get more plays of him in, I do think it will come down actually. I think 35 is very high for Paul. But it's nice to see him do so well. So the next leader I'll talk about is Ilban. Yeah, so Ilban has quite a high number of games in it, at 32%. So definitely doing very well. I think one reason why he's doing so well is that he's another of those draw card leaders, right? So we see these two draw card leaders sitting on the top because I think there are a lot of good things when you draw now. So previously when you draw cards, right, you'll cycle into your diplomacies, you'll cycle into the cards that you bought. What happens now in Immortality, right, is that my hypothesis is that because experimentations are so good to draw, drawing cards translates into points. The more cards you draw, the easier it is for you to get your first and your second scarab point. So because of that, drawing cards is very, very good, and Ilban is one of those leaders which allows you to draw and cycle your deck very quickly. So this enables you to get those scarab points, and maybe that's converting into wins. But for Handro, his win percentage actually before this weekend was somewhere in the mid-20s. What happened was that through the tournament, right, that we played, the Muad'dib melee, there were 12 games of him played and he only won one of the games, and that like severely like pulled down his win rate. Still think more data would be better for him, but to see him so low is quite surprising. One of my hypotheses when it comes into Immortality is that leaders which like to use their signet ring or which have a lot of power into their signet ring, right, will fall down, and yeah, leaders who have like strong passives would be better. So one of the leaders who has a very strong signet ring, right, is Leto. Leto's win rate was like maybe slightly below 20%. But what happens was that over the weekend, because Leto was played so much during the tournament, Leto won more than half of his games, you know, and that's why his win rate is sitting where it's at now. I think the meta favors him a lot because he's one of those very flexible position 2 leaders. If you get him in position 2, you are very set for the game. There's a lot of pathways you can go. You can go Swordmaster, you can go interstellar shipping, you can kind of do a bit of everything. Yeah. So Yuna is also picking up a bunch of wins, which is quite surprising. Like smuggling is super contested for her, but I think maybe in the mid to late game, because smuggling is so strong for you, as long as you have Swordmaster and you're able to go smuggling in the mid to late game as well, maybe those turn 4, turn 5, turn 6 smuggles, right, what is fueling her win rate. So in terms of popularity, you have Beast being the most popular, followed by Ilban, then Handro. I think you can use this as a gauge to see what leaders players think are strong, right? So players still think that like Paul, Yuna, Ariana, Alicia are not as strong, right? I think Beast has always been a favorite leader. It's simple. It's new players like it, experienced players like it as well. Yeah, and Ilban is just outperforming everyone. So some interesting stats about win rate by position. If I ask you which position is best, can you tell me which? Well, I think based on my recent video about early Swordmaster, right, and this meta OP strategy, I suspect that position 2 will be strongest, right? Because even if you block that, then they'll still get interstellar shipping, so one or the other. So based on the data, that's correct. Position 2 currently has around 30% win rate, with position 1 and position 4 being fairly competitive at around 24 and 26% win rate. Whereas position 3 actually is the one who's suffering the most. This actually is slightly more balanced than Rise of X. Rise of X actually position 4. Is it position 4? I think position 4 had like a very bad win rate. Maybe like a less than 20% win rate. So overall this data is good, I guess. When I first showed this data to people couldn't really understand why position 3 had the worst win rate. And I'm not too sure as well. I think position 4 you get to play a lot of leaders which do well in position 4. But I think position 3 hasn't really found its groove. It kind of wants to do everything. And because now position 3 doesn't get Swordmaster or it doesn't get Smuggle because position 2 goes for it, maybe its win rate is going down. So these are just some of my hypotheses with regards to it. Yeah, but I think it's so interesting. Would you have guessed that position 3 is the worst position? I think based on public sentiment, right, position 1 is the worst, right? People hate being in position 1, but position 1 still seems to be winning some games, and position 4 seems to be doing great as well. So if you have any hypothesis, do write in the comments. I think it would be quite interesting to discuss like why this is so. So I always said that Dune is a 7-round game. Like the game can always end in round 7, and you must be kind of prepared to work towards the round 7 game. But based on the data, actually, the game ends average on round 8, right? So when I think about it, yes, you still need to be prepared for the game to end round 7, right? But you can always like if you miss that round 7, you will just kind of finish up on round 8, or maybe you can even like work towards a round 8 victory as well. So if you're thinking about it, like 1/3 of the games will end by round 7, and 2/3 of the games will end after round 7. So expect a lot of your Dune Immortality games to last to round 8. If your group is more casual, expect it to go to later on rounds 9. So once again, I want to thank everyone for submitting their stats. I think we have a few main contributors, and these contributors maybe are skewing the data slightly. And the best way to kind of fix this noise, right, is to actually have more people submit and to have more data. And when you have more data, all this noise, maybe that coming from some certain contributors, will be erased away. Okay, so one thing I mentioned is that we can calculate some sort of elo based on the games that are submitted, right? And I've asked these players if they want to like unmask their rank data. So if you mask your data, your data will just remain as a dot. And yeah, we won't show it publicly. Okay, but for anyone who wants to see how they're performing relative to everyone else, this is what it is. Currently the system is based on a 4-player game, right? And you look at the probability it is for you to win based on your elo, right? And then you have you take that probability time, then you calculate the difference between that probability and or your actual outcome of the game, whether you win or not, and then you multiply it by a certain factor. So currently the factor is quite low. Currently the factor is like 32, which is I think what is recommended for a 1 versus 1 game, which makes each loss like you on average you minus like 8 elo, and then if you win you plus 24 elo. I think that's generally how much elo like changes per game. So I'm actually not too sure if this is the right methodology, or if like the number should be higher, if each loss should be like minus 24 elo and each win should be like plus 75. So do submit your games, and I think that if you look at, so I have submitted 14 games and I have won 10 of them, and I think MOTW, who is a finalist in the recent Muad'dib melee, currently has the highest elo with 26 games and 14 games won. This is like a 54% win rate. So every game he plays, he has like slightly over 50% chance to win. And I think based on this elo, actually is quite representative of like how the tournament actually played out. So MOTW finished finalist. Gristlepath finished as a semi-finalist, losing to the eventual winner. He was very close actually in his game, which I'll upload tomorrow. Yeah, he just missed out slightly on the finals as well. Sneaker did also semi-finalist. Felt that had a bad round one. Um, Drazel won. Drazel won his one game that he played, and PP and Shrigma Mail's data is only here because the games that are submitted from them is from the tournament mostly. Okay, so if you submit more games, we can kind of roughly see how it is. I think it's interesting to match it back to like actual tournament performance. So if you are looking for strong players, do consult this list of players, and you also can watch them during the tournament and expect them to do well. So once again, if you want to unmask your data, yeah, you can always just ping me, and then we would just unmask the data, and then whenever I publish the data, currently I'm just publishing it through video. Or there's some ideas about publishing it through some other forum, but for now this is what we have. And if you do want to contribute to this data, to all the stats previously, right, and as well as this elo, right, you can always just turn on the tournament button, and then you just submit it without a tournament key. So this data will all go into a centralized database where we can analyze. So alongside of this, I also published interview with the alongside this, I also published an interview with the overall champion, Shrigma Mail or Zerkrat. So I posted it on the community tab, and I'll post a link in the comments if you want to read it. So there are more questions than this. So the next Muad'dib melee will happen on the 13th of May, right? And registration should begin on the 15th of April, so this Saturday. Same 11 AM EST, similar to the last tournament. So if you're interested, do register, and I'll hope to see you there. Do help me submit stats if possible, and do let me know if you want your ELO stats to be reviewed. Thank you. Bye.